Hey everyone, Miff here, and welcome back to my Completionist playthrough of Icewind Dale. Purist style, insane difficulty, the works. Now, this will be an action-packed episode with a lot of fights, but also some cool conversations as well. A lot to do, so let's jump right in. We've already heard from the Hermit that there's a horde of goblins standing between us and Kuldahar. And to give a quick rundown of the opponents, we will meet all over the place here. There are 4 types of them: melee goblins and goblin archers, and their elite versions called Marshals. I'll have their relevant stats on the screen, but in short, they are all level 1, have little HP, and individually, the basic goblins especially, are less dangerous than the orcs we faced recently, but their strength lies in numbers, especially on our difficulty level. Quite a few fights in here are affected by it, with hard and especially insane greatly expanding the amount of enemies, adding mostly the Marshals to those encounters. On core, there are 28 goblins on this map in total, while on insane, that number increases to 45. Quite a few more. You'll see that this makes some of their groups grow massively, often doubling in size. But despite all this, we have to march onwards and approach our first fight already. So let us activate Rintar's protection from evil, which is of course going to make him more evasive against these evil-aligned goblins. Let us also activate Iris's song and talk about that fight number 1. Normally on core it consists of 5 opponents, 4 goblins and 1 archer, but hard throws in 1 archer marshal into the mix, and then insane adds 2 more of those. So we will have 8 guys to fight against instead of just 5, and of course half of them are going to be ranged attackers. So already quite a dangerous fight. They are all linked together, even though they are kind of scattered around the place. But their starting position basically means that they will not arrive to the battlefront at the same time. So we will have to wait a little bit until those archers, who are kind of at the front of the group, to bunch up for a decent sleep. And now to talk in detail about this spell, because I forgot to do it in the Orc Cave. This section of the game will be our last chance to use it. Its longevity ends here. Once we progress out of this area, there are only a few rare creatures that would even be susceptible to it later on. But when it comes to its mechanics, it doesn't offer a saving throw, which is great, but unfortunately it has this 2d4 hit dice of creatures it affects, so a limit, a 2 to 8 levels worth of creatures basically, cap that it can affect. And in practice, even if all of those creatures are level 1, it usually affects from 2 to 4 creatures on average. So that is an unfortunate element of the spell, because of course in Baldur's Gate it did have a saving throw that the creatures could make. However, it didn't have any target limit, so you could actually affect a lot of creatures in those larger encounters. And of course, the primary difference was that the spell just stayed relevant for much longer in Baldur's Gate 1, being able to turn the tide of a lot of fights in your favor. But here we will try to make the most of it. And this fight lends itself decently to use it already. So let us position a little bit better and begin this fight. Here comes the Goblin. Kind of in the front, we might try to get some ranged hits on him already and wait for those archers. The first archer marshal approaches, so let us already unleash a sleep in that general direction. The rest of the guys should join him soon, so let's try to affect as many of those archers, hopefully, with the sleep. Alright, I think we got all of the ranged attackers, which is great. Exactly what we wanted to do. So now we can just deal with those melee goblins at our leisure. So one slowpoke finally joins the fight. We are going to use some of those kiting tactics still, even though Rintar's health pool grew. We, still have to manage our health and be cautious. Now, when it comes to these archers, we are going to wake them up with a juicy hit from Rintar, hopefully juicy. He has the potential of doing a lot of damage to them, because even though they are disabled, they still are wielding their ranged weapons, their bows. So Rintar will have that +4 damage bonus working in his favor. So hopefully, alright, he can deal a nice chunk of damage and make them, okay, 8, I think they have 9 hit points, so just barely this Archer Marshal will survive. But he couldn't manage to do anything in his brief time awake. Alright, and here... Oh, by the way, just because we have Cosmetic Attacks disabled, sometimes this animation will play out that is not a real attack. This happens whenever the characters have an kind of uneven amount of attacks. So you can see that he basically deals 1.5 attack per round, which means that he will alternate making 1 attack one round and then 2 attacks the next round, and it will switch between 1 and 2, because this means basically 3 attacks over 2 rounds. So whenever that kind of half attack that is not a real attack happens, because having that amount of attacks, he will always have 2 animations per round, but sometimes, you know, one of them will be real and sometimes it will not be an actual attack. That's why, you know, he made that swing, but it wasn't that it missed, but it was just an animation. So even if you have Cosmetic Attacks turned off, sometimes you will see those like fake attacks. Alright, anyway, first encounter is done. Now when it comes to the loot, the most important thing to pick up here are the short bows that we will be able to get some gold from. Then everything else that these goblins drop will sell for just 1 gold. So the best things to pick up are the daggers and the small shields, because they are the lightest. Of course, the battle axes are a little bit too heavy for our capabilities. So I'm going to try to pick those items in a pretty organized manner, and I think here we can still use Nadimastria's quiver to store those bullets. And we'll probably pick up some daggers with Asathi, small shields with Galburin, and bows with Bray, and then somebody else. Alright, now after this encounter, let us clear these 2 archers in the back. Alright, nice. They have a tendency to actually switch to a melee weapon sometimes and follow the attacker in melee, which is quite nice, but yeah, they have a more active script, it seems. Like, these goblins tend to switch targets more and switch their weapons more. But anyway, now we are going to approach this, like, chicken coop, I guess. And there was actually, like, 2 pictures, those, like, 3D looks, promotional pictures for the game that actually depicted that ruined building there with a tower in the background that we will get to eventually. And there's 5 guys in there. Goblin Marshal, kind of their leader. And then his subordinates, 3 goblins and 1 archer. And strangely enough, they are not linked together, so you can actually pull them kind of one by one. And also in the original game, the Marshal would have a couple of lines that he would utter to his goblin companions, kind of rushing them, I guess hurrying them to get the chickens, because there are going to be a few chickens that in the original they would actually actively attack. So he would have a couple of lines kind of urging them to catch those poor chickens, and that would add some urgency for us also to rescue those poor animals from their clutches. Here it doesn't really, on the Enhanced Edition, those lines don't really show up for some reason, but anyway, we are going to approach the whole fight. We are going to approach them all, kind of having the intention of killing the archer first. Because then you will see that the pathfinding of the melee opponents is not going to... Well, will work in our favor, hopefully, because there's basically a tiny narrow passage here, and there's one in the back, so depending on like which passage they use, they might get a little bit stuck together. But anyway, giving us hopefully enough time to get rid of this archer here. And then we will see with our other characters what we're going to have to do. Okay, nice crit from Galburin takes this archer out already. Oh yeah, and they are kind of standing in front of that wall. Let's try to get this Marshal first. Oh, that's really nice. They're not really trying to find their way too actively. Let him come to us. Oh, there's this heroic chicken! Our secret ally, actually blocking their path. That was so cool, Mr. Chicken. See, they are thankful for us rescuing them from the hungry goblins. Oh yes, let's also loot some stuff here. and now let's proceed. First, I think we're going to take the main road and do a fight kind of down south.
Got it. Here.
And because we are going to use Entangle in that fight, so we'll probably block our way of approach here. And I think it's best to take these guys from this angle, because there's the least chance to aggro any of the other groups that are nearby. And it's also, even if they save against our Entangle and kind of walk towards us, we are going to have a decent position to take them out regardless. But anyway, there's basically a group of what normally would be 4 guys, also quite widely spread out. Something that you could like hardly call a group really, because here directly to the east there would be basically 2 guys, but there are also 2 guys above them to the north, kind of at a little bridge that we will take eventually to reach Kuldahar, but they are all linked together, so effectively a group of 4 goblins. But then on hard there are 2 marshals added, and insane adds 1 marshal and 1 archer marshal to the group. So again the group grows to 8 instead of 4. But it's a predominantly melee group, and this is why we are going to use Entangle here. And Asathi with her eagle eye, elvish eyesight will actually spot the group approaching already and kind of cast Entangle, or start casting, and then we will pull the group. Alright, their saving throws. Well, some of them actually worked. This Goblin Marshal is going to approach us, so let him be our priority target. Somewhere in the back, okay, there's that Archer Marshal. He got entangled, I think. Yes, he is entangled. Quite in the back, so we might be able to kind of just retreat a little bit and not have to deal with him already. We'll see. Okay, but there's nobody else approaching. Let's actually take our long-range attackers. So Rintar with his thrown axes, Galburin and Bray. Let's actually try to deal with that archer already. And then we will have Nadimastria and Asathi, our dart throwers, that have a shorter range. Let's have them a little bit more in the back. Okay, 1 goblin broke free. Let's try to deal with him. I guess Rintar needs to switch to melee. Okay, nice hit there. Alright, and we can just keep on going. Let's try to focus on these marshals, and our dart throwers can focus whomever is closest. Okay, nice. Entangle still works in our favor. Okay, 1 goblin broke free. Can kite him a little bit. Kind of try to have him stay in the Entangle. He might get affected by it again. Come on, guys. Alright. Let us continue attacking. Fight is coming to the end. We just have to mop up those last remnants of the group and finalize the slaughter. Alright, nice. Now we shall approach a tough fight in the north. And this one will have a lot of guys for us, both melee and ranged. I'm going to loot these guys a little bit later. But yes, I think first let's get inside this area, so that later on we have a better approach to finish off the fight, depending on how it will go. I'm not going any further to the east, because this will actually initiate the fight. Let us position Rintar and Nadimastria, our 2 main actors here. And now this fight basically has normally 2 goblins and 3 archers. One of them is kind of way up north, but he is linked to the main group. But then Hard introduces 2 marshals, and Insane introduces 3 additional marshals. So a group of 5 increases to a group of 10. But hopefully, with a juicy color spray, we can manage that. All right, let us approach with Rintar boldly. Let's have Asathi prepared, and let's have Nadimastria prepared. All right, here's that outlier archer. Let us try to deal with him by affecting him with a Sunscorch. maybe blinding him, we'll see. There's save versus spell, I think is 17, so of course chances are high, but it cannot be fully depended on. Alright, and the Rintar. Let's try to group them up a little bit. And then unleash a juicy one, hopefully. Alright, this guy saved versus our Sunscorch. I think this one Goblin Archer... Okay, he fell. So we have one melee guy and this one Archer. Alright, let us focus down the Archer. Let's move Nadimastria out. Let's move our beacon of our song a little bit closer, and now let's finish off this guy. Alright, we can deal with him through kiting. Alright, and now let us finish them off. Okay, let's not block ourselves.
What's up?
Here.
Yes. I am by your side.
Here I come. The hells come with me. Orders? Understood.
Alright, so far so good. Like, all of these fights actually do present a lot of danger. This is something that I forgot to talk about whenever we were in the Orc Cave, is that, you know, Tomorrow might not have blessed us when it comes to our random drops and our hit point rolls, but we did have good combat rolls, and this actually matters a lot in the low-level D&D environments, like the beginning of Icewind Dale or Baldur's Gate 1, where these fights can be extremely one-sided depending on how the combat rolls go. You know, if they go in our favor, we connect our attacks, they miss with theirs. Of course, the fight can seem easy, but it can also go the other way, with our opponents just connecting with their attacks, we missing ours, and it can seem like it's a devastating encounter. So in order to get a good grip on kind of the danger level of these encounters, you kind of have to play them enough, I guess, to see the potential danger that they can offer. So yes, even though here it's going well so far, and hopefully it stays that way, but yes, these encounters do pose a lot of danger. All right, and now before we go and loot these guys down there, let's retrieve a healing potion from this crate. And now let us do this fight. And this is a really dangerous one again. Here we have a bridge over a frozen kind of river, and there's a goblin standing on the bridge, but then behind him, normally there would be just one additional archer and kind of 3 melee goblins in the back that are not as relevant. But Hard adds 2 archers, and Insane adds another 2 archers and 1 archer Marshal. So 5 ranged enemies that are positioned pretty well. It's kind of a pretty cool defensive position if they wanted to defend this bridge against us. However, of course, we are going to try to lure them into a trap, because we, of course, cannot possibly attack them directly. Alright, so here's the goblin, and kind of on the other side of this frozen creek, there are the archers. Okay, they are going to start bunching up. Now let's approach with Rintar to have him gain their attention, and then we will also step up with Nadimastria, hopefully unleashing a juicy color spray again. Actually, our other party members can attack this melee goblin that we will start kiting in a moment. Alright, that is the juice. That is what I want to see. Oh yes, now let's just assign our party members to have some fun slaughtering those evil goblins. Alright, and now we will have a lot of looting to do. Alright, let's see. Let's move Bray forward, so she's in range of all of these short bows. The 5 gold we sometimes see comes from the Archer Marshals. I think they are the only guys that drop gold directly. Okay, I guess arrows, since they weigh nothing, Rintar will have to carry for now. Okay, since our inventory is full, let us distribute some of these darts, maybe, to empty a few additional slots. Okay, Galburin is already full. Alright, so I think the shields we will leave here for now, and then the daggers, Iris can start picking up.
Yeah.
Let's see what else you can scavenge here.
Yes, of course.
Right. Okay, so I guess Nadimastria will pick up bows from now on, and then we have
Orders.
the arrows for Rintar. So yes, this is kind of the base of that eastern group we dealt with using Entangle. Here's the bridge we will ultimately use to reach Kuldahar, but now let's approach this old mill that the Hermit already mentioned. And here we will be able to retrieve another healing potion. Our supplies grow. We fortunately didn't have to use too many of them so far. But anyway, here's the now not operational mill, because of course these lands kind of are frozen, this river and all the machinery. However, here Asathi will sense something in a true RPG fashion. Because of course these are lands adjacent to Kuldahar, but they are already deprived of the warmth exuded by the great oak. And Asathi here will recognize the oak's presence nearby, and she will know that her dream about its diminishing power was true, which is a cause for concern, but it also reassures her of her purpose in this far-off place. She knows she is where she needs to be and doing what she needs to do. And here there will be a sad sight. Also, this poor dog. Just look at what they've done to him, these bastards, these monsters. Rest assured that we shall avenge this good boy and purge this land of all the evil filth infesting it, as they have done the unforgivable. There shall be no mercy. No mercy indeed. And this goblin here that is not hostile to us will witness our approach firsthand. Our newly strengthened resolve. Here, this like crazy goblin Marshal we can actually talk to, and there's some funny responses sometimes. What am I doing here? And like, well, it looks like you're looting and pillaging this mill. But in order to get the lengthiest conversation out of him and to get the paladin class option, we have to ask him this. You can speak common, being surprised that he is going to be quite eloquent for a goblin, I suppose. Of course, not all goblins are idiots, just most of us. Ah, what is the buzzing in my head? This is pretty funny too. Not all goblins are idiots, just most of us. Well, you're not all that different then, I suppose. But anyway, here we have the paladin option. It's your conscience telling you that attacking villages for profit is morally poisonous. Bah, don't try to make me feel guilty for what we've done. We didn't ask to be called here. We need food and supplies. Alright, of course Rintar will not take kindly to that kind of response. That is no excuse. Well, actually, before we get to his response, let us discuss some other possible dialogue options. Of course, if you ask about this calling he mentioned twice already, there will be a bit of an explanation that there's some kind of a summoning force that they feel compelled to answer, and they were summoned here basically from some other areas around the place. However, it also, of course, messes with their heads, and we will have another conversation where we will get more clues along the same lines. So here I will just show this on a screenshot, but there are also two other class-based responses. One coming from a mage who suspects that there is mind-affecting magic being at play here, and then there's also the cleric saying that gods often have a calling for mortals, even goblins in this case. But yes, he apparently didn't ask to be called, but that is not an excuse for Rintar. For your crimes against the people of this village, I must exact divine retribution. Farewell. And strangely enough, this conversation option doesn't automatically trigger combat. but it simply prepares him for what's to come. Because we can do nothing but put him out of his misery and stop his suffering that way. So we shall, of course, attack him right here. We shall not forgive him and his companions for what they have done here. Alright, hopefully some attacks connecting with him would be nice. Alright, and now he is at peace, and his evil will taint this land no longer. Anyway, before we enter this mill, we will make a little leadership swap, and we will have Bray be our leader for a moment.
What? Me lead?
Yes, Bray, you have a special set of skills for this task. And also, Galburin leveled up earlier, and somehow I just thought about something else. But yes, let us tackle his level up now, so that he can enter with hopefully a few more hit points into those next battles. Of course, he will gain from 2 to 9 hit points because of the D8 cleric roll, boosted by +1 static amount from his 15 constitution. So let us see. Alright, 5. That's better than his previous level up, where he got the minimum. This is about as average as it gets. But of course, a major breakthrough for him is that he will unlock access to level 2 spells now. And because of his wisdom, it's not going to be just 1 slot, but 3 slots for level 2 spells. We will get to, of course, explaining those in due time. But now, let us enter with Bray as our leader. Because here, Uligar, the leader of these orcs here, addresses us immediately. And in the Enhanced Edition, he will speak with our leader. Whereas in the Classic Icewind Dale, he would address the closest of our party members. And so in this Classic formation we are using here, that would be person number 2, so Galburin in our case. However, since this is Enhanced Edition, we have delegated Bray to be our leader, because she has what she needs to conduct this conversation in a pretty interesting way. So he introduces himself as Uligar, Chief of Bleeding Eye. Bow before me and pay tribute. And here we can... there's a few options. Most of them make him hostile, but there's a few other options. So here we can say that at first it is Rintar who will respond to him in a pretty serious tone, saying, "I refuse. I will not pay you a tribute, nor bow before you." So I'll kind of anger him a little bit, but not enough to attack outright. "Do not mock Chief of Bleeding Eye. You give tribute now or die." And here we can roleplay it in a way where now the belligerent Bray jumps in and says this: "Quit threatening me or my friends, or I'll slice your belly open, remove your intestines, and strangle you with them out on the ice so you can see your reflection before you die." How does that sound? Proud warrior, you are fierce. I let you go. Do not cross me again. Likewise. So this intimidation tactic worked on him because Bray has the necessary attributes needed for it to be effective. And those are actually 3 attributes that are needed. First off, you need to have at least 14 intelligence and charisma for this option to even appear, but it will not be successful unless it is backed by at least 14 strength as well. And of course, Bray has exactly those types of values. Well, slightly more intelligence than needed, but yes, that is why she has... One of the reasons she has those attributes set the way they are was to handle this conversation. Now we can revert to our usual formation, and this of course makes them not hostile, not get the jump on us, and that allows us to reposition. Another way to do it is to pay him a tribute. It will only be possible if you have at least 50 gold, because that is the amount that's going to be paid to him, and this will achieve the same effect. Although you'll have to perhaps swallow your pride a little bit and pay this filthy orc some gold, but you can get your gold back once you kill him, because it will be on his corpse, of course, the 50 gold he gains from such an outcome. But yes, of course, we are going to engage them in combat, and now even Rintar will lose his patience with Uligar. "You dare come here again? I slay you for your grumsh, damn you, what the word?" And Rintar will help him with a little hint here. "Insolence? You are stupid, aren't you? Okay, and that will make them hostile. Of course, Grumsh, he mentions here, is a greater deity. It's a chief god in the Orcish pantheon. But yes, of course, this time in a fight like this, where we can reposition the way we want and all that, they will not have the upper hand. Although this is still a close quarters encounter, so here we're going to use our second sleep, and we will unleash it already. These guys are going to become hostile shortly. So let's see what's the result. Okay, Uligar wasn't affected. Uligar is level 2 and the other guys are level 1. Let's reactivate our song, attack Uligar and start the kiting. So at least a little bit we can, well, that wasn't very well done. 12 damage there. Let us actually use a potion. And hopefully you can connect with some attacks, guys. That is truly awful. See, this is why we usually want to have some tactics prepared for such occurrences, because if we don't have any spells or some buffs working for us in those encounters, you can see that we are just left with this this sad display that you've witnessed here. Anyway, first let's do the same as we did with the Goblin archers. Let's try to wake him up with Rentar, hopefully a juicy hit. Wakey, wakey. Alright, 9 damage.
Orders. I'm listening.
So one other attack should be enough. Alright. Thank you, Asati. Alright, and now let's just... Alright, that was nice. Alright, and that was also acceptable. So... Now let us discuss the random drop that Uligar has for us. This is going to be similar in a few ways to our last random drop from the Orc Cave. But anyway, Uligar has 5 items. As usual, we will discuss them in order of what would be perhaps best for us. Although here the hierarchy is not as clear as it was before, at least not for the first and last places. So here... The first one will be Stout Ward. It's a small shield +1. So it's a nice drop for now. But of course it has the downside of not providing any protection against missile attacks. And as we've been able to see countless times already, a lot of the most dangerous opponents are ranged attackers. So that is not great. However, it is the most unique drop, and most importantly, it is upgradable later on for a really nice boost later, depending on your party composition and how you have your attributes set up. It can provide something quite nice to some parties, and of course, whether we get Stout Ward or not, we will discuss its properties when it's upgraded in due time, when we would get that item that allows the upgrade to be done. Next up, there's going to be Glimglam's Cloak. It's a protection item +1 in the form of a cloak, and it could be argued that this is the best drop out of this pile. Because, you know, a universally useful protection item in the... Occupying that gear slot is actually quite nice. And also another thing to mention is that, as you've been able to see already, in Icewind Dale, it's quite cool how even the simple +1 enchanted items often have unique names and stories associated to them. So it's quite nice to, you know, stop and read the histories of these items. Also, Glimglam's Cloak is nice because once it becomes obsolete later on in the game, when you have more protection items, better enchantment, you know, some magically enchanted armors and whatnot, it also sells very nicely, almost for 4,000 gold. So that is quite a bit of cash. All right, now the next drop, there's going to be quite a step down, I guess, but it's still a interesting item. The Merry Shorthorn. It's a bardic instrument that allows the bard to cast 1 bless per rest or per day. So unfortunately, it's just 1 cast, 1 free bless. It would be nice if it was 2 or 3. But, you know, it is usable. It can be sold decently if you don't have a bard, so not the worst. And then similarly to the Orc Cave random drop, we again have quite a big drop in quality. For the bottom 2 items that are quite interchangeable, but I would still say that the Wand of Trap Detection is better because at least it sells decently. So kind of, again, a similar theme to the boots and that fire dagger drop from last time. But yeah, the wand would have been ranked firmly above that last drop if it wasn't for the fact that it only has one charge. So it is either an extremely limited use of this item, or you have to recharge it. But even then, it costs 4,500 gold with 20 charisma, so the optimum discount to recharge it, and it sells for 816. So nice if you just want to sell it, but if you would like to then recharge it, that still comes with a hefty cost, and you can only it only holds 5 charges. So it's not even, you know, that great in that regard. Although it's slightly interesting because it's only usable by arcane casters, so kind of a nice concept. Depending on your party composition, this might have some uses. And then finally, we will have Applebane, which is just a regular dagger +1 that only sells for 150. And I swear to God, if we get it, I'm going to snap. So anyway, let's just get to it. Okay, it's not the dagger, at least. I think this is the Merry Shorthorn. It looks quite similar to the wand, but yes, let us identify it. Yes, the instrument. So not the worst. You know, free bless is of course not as nice as that girdle of beatification would have been, and yeah, apparently I still can't let that go. But looking at the bright side, you know, it's nice for completionism because all of these instruments in Icewind Dale, like each have their own musical tune that the bard plays to release its magic. But yeah, only one cast is a bit of a shame, but of course Iris will be able to present her musician skills through instruments like this one. So we can equip it in her quick slot, and that means we have one additional bless, because we are holding one bless for the final encounter on Galburin, but now we will have an additional use here. Okay, here we kind of picked that up wrong. And then also from Uligar we have a static blur drop, and just a level 2 arcane spell. Probably not going to have too much use out of it. Ideally for some kind of a fighter mage, or if we go for some kind of a tanky setup on Nadimastria, but you know, with her health and our difficulty settings and all that, that is still going to be quite a dangerous tactic until later, I guess. But here, sensing danger in those close quarters, Rintar will descend down the stairs alone first to see what awaits us on the floor below. And there will be 5 goblins here that are again quite hungry.
Understood.
They have depleted all the resources that this area had to offer. I entered a little bit too quickly, but they are firmly targeting Rintar in their pursuit. Yeah, my mind is already on that next encounter where I would like to enter with the rest of the party quite quickly, and here, of course, the proper way of playing would be to first you know, take the goblins a little bit away from the entrance. But it didn't result in any unfortunate problems for us. Now, here when it comes to this part of the mill's machinery, it's quite funny that in the game files it's called mill thingy. So, just something to point out there. Here we have some containers. Here we have 3 sunstone gems. They sell for 15 gold each, so 45. That will soon be in our pockets once we get to Kuldahar, and we will be able to sell all the gems for optimal amounts from then on. Then 15 gold in cash, and then we have some more throwing axes, which unfortunately make Rintar a little bit encumbered. Let's actually give like 2 of these axes to somebody else now to carry temporarily. And now, still on this floor, before we go down, we can uncover a little boy hiding in this closet. And I will conduct this conversation with Rintar. It's going to be the most appropriate, but this conversation actually has a lot of class-based responses. Shh, be quiet or the goblins will hear us. What's your name, little boy? My name is Jermsy. I lived here at the mill with my dad and my sister. The goblins got them. So he seems pretty tough for a little boy. And we will use this response, a paladin unique response. But before we do, let's talk about the variety of different responses that we can use here. This is a general good aligned response that will also succeed in us getting the best kind of outcome of this little quest. Let's say we will get a decent chunk of quest experience from conducting this conversation, and you can actually conduct it not necessarily in the good way. There's actually quite a few ways to end up with Jermsy traveling to Kuldahar, as you will see. He knows the way, but you can motivate him in a variety of ways, I guess. But yeah, like all three alignments of the cleric have something unique to say here. Like the good cleric will point out that this should be a life lesson that will be revealed in time for him as gods work in mysterious ways. And there's actually two different follow-ups depending on the wisdom of such cleric. If you have below 15 wisdom, you won't be able to explain it that well, but if you have 15 or higher wisdom, the cleric will reassure Jermsy that death is not necessarily the end of existence, and he should have faith. Then the evil cleric, on the other hand, speaks about the teachings of the black gods and Jermsy's family of weaklings failing, so he shouldn't lament them and all that. And then the neutral cleric and druid at first have the same line to say, where they talk about the balance, but then they have a different follow-up to that, with the neutral cleric talking about happiness and sorrow being the two counterbalancing forces present in life. Speaks about the blessing of Timora and the black kiss of Beshaba. Well, we know something about that. And the druid speaks about the natural way of things and the cycle of life and death. And then finally, to get a little bit more additional info, the ranger and the druid can actually ask about what the goblins are doing here, because this is not their natural habitat. Why are they so far outside of their normal living areas? And Jermsy will actually have a unique line there, talking about the goblins behaving like they are suffering, they are howling in pain, and talking about their heads hurting. And then finally there are a couple of callous responses that we don't see here because they are not available to Paladin or Ranger, but strangely enough they are available to like good aligned characters, where you can kind of frighten him to run to Kuldahar and still get the full experience. So, you know, you don't have to necessarily comfort him and encourage him positively. And there's a funny summary if you frighten him here. It says, your bleak, dismal advice will scar the child for years. But anyway, the paladin, Rintar, here will say, do not mourn too deeply, child. If your father and sister were pure of heart, they are in a better place. Justice will come to those who murdered them. And yes, we will be the instrument of justice here. Come with me, and I will find some help for you. Don't worry about me. I'll go to the temple in Kuldahar. I know the way. Now that the goblins are dead, it'll be easy to get there. Bye. Alright, farewell, Jermsy. Good luck. So yes, another 2400 experience for us. And here, let us again go down first with Rintar. And actually, let us use this bonus bless here. Let us bless up before this encounter, because this is going to be extremely close quarters, and this boost will work nicely here. So since we have that one bless to spare, alright, I wanted to be quiet so that you could hear this like flute musical theme, courtesy of our talented musician here. And now Rintar can proceed. Alright, so here we're going to have 2 Archer Marshals and 3 standard Goblins. Yeah, extremely limited ways of moving here, but we can approach this Marshal. Yes, now we can start approaching with our other party members. Yeah, hopefully...
I'm here.
Oh, I did renew that that song. I thought it wasn't renewed because I saw that we didn't have it as part of our buffs, but it just took a little bit longer because of course it checks once per round, so once every 6 seconds, and it just hadn't occurred. But anyway, we have to deal with this Archer Marshal, hopefully, and this will actually allow Rintar to kite a little bit, because there is actually space, even though the cursor doesn't. Sometimes, you know, if you move too far to the wall, it will seem like you can't move there, but you actually can kite around this central opening. Alright, nice. Rintar did receive some damage, but very little. Now he's missing 5 hit points, which is perfect for his cure disease, but let's first move away a little bit. Now let's allow him to cure himself, and let's approach this other Archer Marshal, and let's try to snipe him. Alright, nice. And now let's try to open one of those lanes for Rintar to kite further. Alright, now that's done. Guys, start doing stuff. Alright.
I'm listening.
We have dealt with this decently enough. Not too much damage we had to suffer. And some more arrows for Rintar. And here, let's leave with our main party. And here I just wanted to showcase that this is a decent spot to take goblins basically one at a time. The archers usually can't shoot you because this is line of sight, and this is a useful spot for soloing if you want to position yourself here and then like tackle the melee goblins and then go finish off the archers. That can sometimes be useful. Alright, but now let us finally leave the mill. It has been cleansed of all the evil forces. And yeah, here of course you can see Jermsy's father. Oh, justice will come to you, monsters. There's still a few of these evildoers we have to deal with. Also, there was another 3D promotional picture of this mill. That's pretty cool. Shows it in that from that ground view. But now we shall take the road north, and let's position our ranged attackers here near that cliff. And now let's pull the 2 goblins that stand in our way. And I think the dart throwers won't quite be able to reach from there, I think. So let's stop for now, but our longer ranged attackers can already attack. Without too much success so far. Alright, but we are through. I know there are some small shields that I could be picking up, but there's going to be way more loot in the area we are headed to. So we'll see what our carrying capacity and our inventory situation will be then. Here we have a cool like watchtower for some sentry archers, and this description already gives us a bit of an idea, especially with this bed here and this kind of safe environment, that you could actually safely rest in here. And I've kind of thought about whether to demonstrate that on video or not, but I really want to do this section without resting. But yes, you will never be interrupted while resting here. Whereas outside, of course, there's a large chance that goblins will interrupt your rest. And this is really a cool element of Icewind Dale, where sometimes through those descriptions, when you can inspect the elements of your environment, or just by observing the the surroundings you are in, sometimes you can get the idea that you will have a safe place to rest, kind of, at your disposal, and they are nicely sprinkled around the various like dungeon crawling adventures. So it is cool that such places exist. All right, now Iris will conduct the conversation with this ogre who is not hostile. That makes Iris curious. This isn't any like stat-based reason, but let her do this conversation. I feel it's the most appropriate role-playing wise that she would come up to this ogre without any hostile intentions of her own.
Me will smash your face.
And yeah, Ghereg. This is the other conversation where we will get some hints about the condition of these monsters that were called here, supposedly. Head hurt. why you make Ghereg's head hurt, skinny people. And this conversation has a lot of funny responses. And again, most of them will make him hostile and trigger combat, but we will maneuver around those, even though they're really funny. We make your head hurt because you're a big dummy. But anyway, your head? I'm not doing anything to make your head hurt. Why it hurt then? Why? Ghereg want to pound head through walls, make pain go away. And this will not trick him, even though you might think you can, convince an ogre to think that this is a great idea, especially from some experiences we've had in Baldur's Gate, especially with Lars, whom we could nicely trick into believing a pretty far-fetched tale. This is also pretty cool. Don't be an idiot. You can't make your head feel better by pounding it against the wall. But anyway, what's wrong with your head, Ghereg? You can keep being inquisitive. No. Walk here from my cave. Need to answer call. Now cannot. And the head, it hurts. Ghereg want to pound head against wall to make head okay. You can't pound your head against the wall to make it feel better, you stupid oaf. I love that. At every step, you can say something like that. You know, Ghereg, I don't think that's a very good idea. Maybe you're right. Know what to do. All right, good luck, Ghereg, I guess. And of course, this doesn't trigger him to be hostile, although, like I said, most of the conversation options do. And, you know, that's what I used to do back in the day. Just have a quick fight with him, and I thought that was it. You know, it seemed perfectly fine that way. Because through this interaction, we get some more clues about that sinister summoning call these monsters feel compelled to answer. We see that it messes with their heads, and that's about it. It doesn't need to be anything more. But it certainly is. First off, we have some class-dependent responses in conversation with Ghereg. There's a ranger comment where he urges Ghereg to leave these lands peacefully, but nothing really comes out of it. And then there's also a paladin remark that's not implemented correctly, and I think some mods restore it. But why it doesn't work is because it's located as a response to what Ghereg says to that ranger comment. So of course, if you're talking with a ranger, you naturally won't have that paladin option available, and there's no such class combo that would allow you to do it. So seems like an oversight in creating the dialogue tree. But anyway, the most notable class response comes from the druid, so let's go through it.
Me will smash your face.
You here again, head still hurt. Too bad, you whiny baby. But yes, the druid can actually suggest some kind of remedy. Ghereg, gather the red and purple frost berries that grow near hot springs. Mash them into a paste and eat them with boiled tundra grasses. That will make your head stop hurting. The remedy actually only works for ogres. That fix head? I give thanks. I go make head better now. Good luck, Ghereg, and we get 1200 experience, which is of course way more than the 270 that you get for killing him, even though he does have some gold on him. But yeah, of course this isn't the preferable way to conduct this conversation. But what is really cool about it, right, Ghereg, will you find your way out? Right, he just despawned before he could reach the door. But anyway, what's really, really cool about this conversation is that you don't even have to have a druid. You can still get this outcome. All you need to do is leave Ghereg with his life for the moment. That was the hard part for me to discover it back in the day. But yes, if you leave him with his life and then proceed a bit further in the game, you can then talk to a certain character about Ghereg's predicament. And that character will suggest using that frostberry treatment. And armed with that knowledge, you can return to Ghereg and relay that info to him and arrive at that outcome, pocketing the 1200 experience. That is super cool. Like, even without a druid, you can just go the extra mile, like a true hero would, to cure this guy's headache and get rewarded for that noble deed. And so we will, of course, come back to this topic once we meet the character in question, and then I'll show the screenshots of how that dialogue works. But yeah, we are not going to rest here, so we can leave this place. Let us reactivate our song again, because now we are nearing a really large-scale encounter. We can proceed north of here, and here we will change our leadership again, so that Galburin can be positioned in that kind of northwestern flank in our formation, and then Rintar will be the most vulnerable, I guess, most visible party member to our opponents, being in that number 2 position. But before we proceed, let us bless up again. You might have noticed that I have these other spells on Galburin, and Asathi has one more Sunscorch. Those were basically, especially Galburin's spells were kind of backups, but everything went smoothly enough so we didn't have to use them. But we will use some more of his spells now. Alright, now let's go. And this is the final encounter. This encounter normally already has a lot of opponents. And there's going to be 3 archers kind of up north that we can avoid for now. But we are already greeted by 3 archers here, and there's more to the east and to the northeast of our position. Because like even on core, you have these 2 archers, and this archer and this. Those are supposed to be added by the difficulty. This one is added by hard and this one by insane, I think. However, the way this whole mechanic works with the extra creatures is that they do spawn on a map at first, even if you play lower difficulties. But then a split second later, their script turns on, which tells them to despawn if the difficulty is lower than what it should be for them to stay there. However, since these 2 archers already see you immediately, that script doesn't trigger, so they stay here regardless. Even on core difficulty, they are always going to be here, even though technically they shouldn't. But yes, on insane, well, basically hard adds like 2 more archers besides this guy, and insane adds another 2 besides this guy. So it's like 4 more archers here added to like over 10 enemies that are here normally, and in total we will end up having to battle 19 of these guys. So here, well, we have to make a strong entrance. So we will just move Iris to the west to make a little bit more space. And now we will unleash a Sunscorch at this guy. Oh yeah, let's change our formation so that number 2 is Galburin again. We will use command on this closest goblin, and then we will move up a little bit with Rintar and kind of try to snipe this archer with our damage. Let's switch to our darts because Rintar can actually go up there and gain or attract the attention of some of these guys. Of course, we want Rintar to be their target, but then we will also have Bray. And Nadimastria would have to endanger herself a little bit too much, I guess, so let them attack there. Now Galburin will use command, and this spell is exactly the same as in Baldur's Gate. And it basically, without a saving throw allowed for the lower level creatures, it will make them sleep for 1 round. So it's just something I've wanted to have one of them as a backup if like there was some kind of unruly goblin that would break through our entangle or something, and we would have to just disable him just to reposition or something, especially since, like I said before, they switch targets quite frequently. So if he switched target to a vulnerable party member and got close, we could then command him, and we would have 6 seconds to kind of reposition and still get a free hit in. But one of these commands I wanted to have for this starting position because, like I said, here we are already in the sight of 3 archers, and then more will come to us soon. So let us unleash our spells and start our attacks. Alright, nice. This 9 damage from Bray sealed the deal. And that is very good. Let's have Bray actually have a free attack on this commanded guy. And then I guess Nadimastria, Galburin, and Rintar can attack this guy, who's going to be hit by Sunscorch in a moment. Alright, he didn't save, so 4 damage plus blind and hopefully some manual damage. And actually here, I've been waiting for a nice opportunity for Smite Evil to just finish off some kind of important goblin quickly. And here we might just use it to be already done with that guy. And now we will be able to proceed with our further plans. Now I've been kind of specific about our positioning here because there's actually a ground trigger, a vertical one, that's right to the east of our starting position. And if you step there, it will make all of these goblins that are for now preoccupied with feasting on these beetles, they will actually attack whomever steps on that ground trigger first. So of course we want Rintar to make that kind of step. And then Once he has the attention of the goblins, then we want to move forward a little bit with Nadimastria and unleash a juicy color spray to affect as many of them as she can. And here this archer might be affected by our color spray, depending if I aimed it right and if the positioning is right. Let's try to make it perfect.
I'm listening. I'll handle it.
And yeah, let's see
Easy as Goblin.
how all of this unfolds.
Got it.
Very well.
Here.
Let's switch to a melee weapon on Rintar. Alright, it's a juicy one, just 2 melee guys are operational. Let's already send Nadimastria to start working on some of these disabled guys. There's a lot of HP to burn through over all of those goblins. Alright, and you guys, you could actually,
Ready. I'll handle it.
you know, if you connect with some of your attacks, that would be nice.
Here. Die.
Alright, Nadimastria in the meantime is killing some of those other guys. Let's just stay here with Rintar, add his attack. Okay, that's cool. Now we can send our guys to finish those goblins off. Of course, we have to remember that this is only 5 rounds, so this can go in a blink of an eye.
Ready. Understood.
When it comes to our damage dealing capabilities, they're not that high, but okay, we did dispose of the main threat, of their main force. Now let's just approach with Rintar and kill these archers on the hills.
I'm listening.
Mastria, you can be as far west as possible.
Ready. All right. Here.
And here, preferably without aggroing that guy over there,
Here I come.
we could...
Hell's come with
okay, he still is shooting, even though he wasn't really revealed. He was on the edge of our vision. Alright, whew. We have dealt with all of the opposition here, and we are kind of in the clear. Let us once again replenish our darts here to maybe have a few more extra inventory slots before our final looting spree. Let's pick up all of these arrows with Rintar. Bows with Nadimastria, let's say.
I'm listening.
The bows we have to pick, like all of them. That is not a negotiable.
What?
Okay, so we have these inventories are full. Maybe Rintar could carry some daggers. And then we will also have Iris pick up all of these short bows. We have to absolutely pick all of them. Of course, we can also return to this area even after unlocking Kuldahar, and I'm not sure if I'm not going to do this off camera, just to pick up all of these daggers and small shields and whatnot after we make our first transactions, because there's still quite a bit of gold in all of this stuff
Agreed.
that we're leaving on the ground, and Nadimastria is actually encumbered a little bit. So let's pass over those 2 throwing axes to somebody else, and now we can proceed into this cave. This will be the last area we have to explore. And here, fortunately, these beetles, even though they are pretty tough, and you will see we'll not have an easy time taking them down, but fortunately if you just take them from range, they will never like activate. It is only when you approach them in melee or use like a crowd controlling spell and they wake up, it is only then that they will activate their hostile attitude, I guess. But as long as you stay at range and just snipe them that way, you can just cut through their like 24 HP, I think. They also have a pretty good armor class, and they can hit for 3d6 damage. So from 3 to 18 damage, that would then be of course doubled on our settings. So we never ever want to have a guy like that approach us. And outside you saw the goblins feasting on the corpses of these beetles, and here it's the opposite. The beetles are feasting on the goblins. Alright guys, whenever you feel like connecting with your attacks, this is what I was talking about, like here we are just left with this. So those are our basic combat capabilities. Yep. Yes, this is why tactics are preferable. One thing that didn't really happen for us, and now I'm realizing that there wasn't really an ideal time to do to present this spell, Cause Light Wounds. It can deal 8 damage, or 4 if a saving throw is made, which is nice for most of the goblins here. A bit of a shame that the archer marshals have 9 hit points, but all of the other types have 8. So I thought that maybe if like a marshal breaks into our ranks and maybe you know, threatens one of our squishier party members, we could have Galburin walk up to him, and it's not the quickest cast, but it's not terrible. Maybe could present this spell. It's a new spell in Icewind Dale, and the fact that Icewind Dale adds lower ranks of these cause wounds spells, and also it's not usable by good aligned clerics, so only neutral and evil ones have those spells at their disposal. But yeah, in Baldur's Gate it was only from level 4 you could have like serious wounds and then critical wounds at level 5, I think, and then harm, of course, at level 6. This kind of line of spells dealing damage directly. But there wasn't really a great opportunity to showcase this. Perhaps these 2 goblins that approached Rintar in melee here outside of this cave, maybe I could have used this, but yeah, maybe there's going to be another opportune time, but I felt like I wanted to memorize this spell for these encounters because of the low health amounts that these goblins generally have. But anyway, here there might have been a pretty powerful goblin leader, perhaps, of these guys, because he has those 9 precious arrows +1. And of course, they boost both Thaco and damage here, same as in Baldur's Gate 1. This is not Baldur's Gate 2, where they wouldn't have that damage bonus component. But yes, we will have these arrows in our possession for some important fights later on. And here there's going to be another pretty wealthy goblin having 86 gold and a gem that sells for 21. So, that was quite a battle-heavy episode. Took a while, but now we are done with all of these areas. I wanted to finish them all up without any breaks and having to return here, although like I said, I might return kind of off camera to pick up all of the loot after we sell all of the stuff we have in our possession already. Now there's one more slot on Nadimastria, now that she passed over those throwing axes, but yeah, like I said, probably a return here will be warranted because there's a lot of small shields that will sell for 1 gold each, but of course plenty of those to cash in on. So yeah, we might explore a little bit more of the area here, but yes, this is the passage. Well, whether you approach from here or from a little bit down south, this will be the passage to Kuldahar, and here we can already take a deep breath because already from here we'll be able to smell the sweet scent of cooking fires. But that will come in the next episode. So for now, I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next time.